Hi, and welcome to the Inspiring Growth podcast and YouTube channel. My name is Lauren, if you haven't met me before. So, today's episode, I'm going to be talking about uh, weight loss and why losing weight might not be just as simple as calories in, calories out. So, if you are someone who has struggled to lose weight or even struggled to gain weight or struggled mentally and emotionally in that kind of area, then this might be a podcast for you. Or, as I always say, there's something in everything that we do, everything that we watch. So if you're here, I know that there is something that you'll take away from this. So yeah, I'm just gonna kind of have a chit chat and share what it's been like for me over the last 36 years. Beautiful. So I grew up in the era where, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate, where it was like the super skinny Victoria's Secret models. Um, I remember when I don't know, I think I was like 10, 8, 9, 10. My mum and like I would walk like a model. My mum was teaching me how to put one foot in front of the other and, how to walk in that straight line and how to stand up straight. And I do remember, uh, things being said around me, around people who were heavier, like people who were fat were like lesser than. They were talked about in a way that made them come across as less people. I don't know how to explain that. Things like because they were fat, that meant that they were lazy and they were like a lower class of society. And, the weight that I am now is, I remember being 60 kilos lighter. So I used to be a skinny girl. So it's really kind of cool because I've had both of those experiences, but I want to kind of talk about like what it's been like for me because there's a reason why it's been difficult for me to lose weight and it isn't just as easy as calories in, calories out, right? So when I hear PTs talking about just, it's simple, just eat less than what exert in energy, like, or exercise more. If you want to eat more, exercise more. And the mad rebel, if you've been listening for a while, you'll know that I have a mad rebel inside. And they're like, no, it's not that easy. Like, it's not that simple. You don't understand, right? And if you can hear, you can intuit that there's a part of me that doesn't feel understood. And I never understood what that meant or what was trying to be understood inside me. So, um, yeah, growing up in this era where like everyone was skinny and there wasn't that many overweight people, and the people that were overweight were picked on. Like in my day, people were fucking brutal. And it was, because I was on the other side of it, so I wasn't getting picked on because I was skinny. Yeah. And so then I guess what happened for me was that I grew up and I started like I had this belief that people who were skinny were better than people who were overweight. Um and I knew that men liked skinnier girls, right? Nobody likes a fat girl. This is what I thought. And these are all the beliefs that I created because of the things that I witnessed around me. And, if you were back then, you would have understood why I believed like that because that's what I saw. I didn't know any different. And like I see now, say on Instagram, there's The Simple Life with Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie, and they're talking about themselves as if they're fat because they've got a tiny bit of blubber on them or something. But in today's world, it's a lot different. I feel like there's a lot more acceptance and understanding and body positivity of just like it's okay no matter what you are. But it's taken a really long time to get through that. And so what happened as I grew older is that I realized that I was very attractive and guys really liked me. And um, this does sound weird, but that's what I realized. And it actually didn't feel safe for me. It was fine until I was then in situations where guys would say, for example, force themselves on me, or I remember going out to clubs at 18, 19, and guys would literally put their hands up your skirts when you're on the dance floor and try and touch you. And it was just horrible. I hated it. I hated receiving the attention. And then I was assaulted at 19, and I didn't want to be in the spotlight. I didn't want guys to like me. I didn't want guys to want to give me attention because it felt unsafe. It was unsafe for me to be attractive, right? I didn't know this. This is something that I've realized through my own personal work. It's taken a really, really long time to actually understand this. And so I'm back then, you know, I was assaulted and then I got a boyfriend for 3 years. And that was the first time in my life where I felt safe. And I felt safe because I knew that I had an excuse for why um, other guys couldn't try and get with me, right? Because I didn't know that I had agency over myself and I didn't feel like I could say no. Crazy, huh? So I had a boyfriend and I felt safe and I felt confident in myself and I also felt accepted. And then we broke up and my nan died within a week of each other, which was horrible. And then in from that space because my nan was my unconditional love giver, my support. I didn't know I had no other way of getting that need met, that need for acceptance, love, and support. And so then I went to numbing my feelings and I worked really hard. And the way in which I was able to give myself that love and acceptance was through food. So my nan, God love her, she would always be like, because she was from a time where food was scarce and so she would say, Lauren, can we go to KFC and get the 10 wings? And it was like something really naughty for her. And so it was something naughty that we did together. And it was a treat, right? And I loved doing that with her. So after she died, for me, getting KFC gave me that feeling of connection with her. It was actually something that was incredibly emotional for me. Um, and that's how I like gave myself that love. And then the boyfriend that I broke up with a week before my nan died, he drank iced coffee. And so I continued to drink that like, so I actually started drinking iced coffee as a way to connect with him and as a way to bond with him because, you're 20, 21, and that's what you do. You think because you like the same things. Oh, so funny, aren't we? It's just so funny when we're young. And then we grow and we mature. Um, anyway, so yeah, so I missed him and what he gave me in that relationship. My way of connecting with him was through drinking the iced coffee. Now, anyone who knows me knows that it has been an addiction which I have struggled to break since then, since I was 20, so 21. So it's been a long time, and I've done a lot of work on it. Now, it wasn't until I did Mastery University with Tony Robbins in 2021 where I realized that drinking coffee gave me so many things. So Tony Robbins talks about how everything that we do in life meets one of six needs, right? So we have a need for, I'm going to try and remember them, a need for certainty, a need for uncertainty, right? So because we have a need for certainty, which creates safety, but a need for uncertainty, which creates like excitement. We have a need for significance for ourselves to feel important. We have a need for connection in our lives and with the people around us. How many more do I? Two. All right. We have a need for contribution. Man, I can't remember the last one. Anyway, I'll chuck it in the notes. But so my getting coffee. So, and the other thing was that I would get up and the first thing that I would do was go to the servo and buy a coffee every day. I wouldn't go and buy like, seven for the week from the supermarket because, and this is the thing, getting up and going and getting my coffee made me feel significant, right? I was doing that for myself. I was giving that to myself. It also created certainty in I knew what I was doing. I knew how the coffee tasted every morning. I loved it so much. It also gave me a feeling of uncertainty in that getting up and going to the service station was different to just staying home. And yeah, it gave me that feeling of just that I deserved this and I was worthy of this. And so it met all of these needs for me. And that's why I wasn't able to change that behavior. It's actually really funny because um, my family, my mum, is very opinionated and critical on what I eat. So she has Crohn's disease and has been very skinny her whole life. I remember when I was in primary school, my friends used to pick on me and tease me and say that my mum was anorexic because she was so skinny. Now, obviously, that's not something that she can control. She then later in life started to put on weight because she was able to manage her Crohn's, but pretty much my whole life, she was never able to put on weight and was incredibly skinny. Um, so she, in her attempts to potentially um, make sure that I didn't get fat and I wasn't worthless, um, because that's the projection and opinion of that time of life. She would try and get me to eat certain things or tell me not to eat certain things. So it was more around, don't eat that, you're going to put on weight. And, it wasn't like a loving, I'm worried about you. It was, when I was like 25, I reflected and was like, oh, I'm going on a date this weekend. Like, I hope that I find a boyfriend. And she was like, maybe if you lose 10 kilos, you might find someone, right? And there's no malice in it, but obviously it incredibly hurt me because she's judging me and saying that I'm not good enough as I am. I need to be different to the way that I was, right? So here I am feeling like I'm not good enough as I am. No one will love me the weight that I am. And so having those internal beliefs created all these behaviors that reinforced that for myself. You know, I didn't feel safe being skinny because I attracted so much attention. I also felt so used by men, as in they only wanted me for the way that I looked. So it was never safe for me to be skinny. And that's why I then put on so much weight. I also didn't learn how to meet my own needs. I didn't learn how to give myself a feeling of love in a healthy way. So I had to learn that through food. Now, some people learn these sorts of things through addictions. I mean, food is an addiction, but alcohol, smoking, sex, all these sorts of things, because when they were a kid, they weren't taught how to love and validate themselves, and they also didn't have access to people in their lives who were able to give that to them. Instead, they had people who were judgmental and critical and dismissive and invalidating, and their emotions were pushed down and suppressed. So, as a way to cope, we've gone about trying to get our needs met, or me, I went about trying to feel a sense of I love myself through food. Now, when I then got into the space of traveling, right? So in 2012, I got my job as a travel agent, and I'd always said, I want to travel the world, I want to see everywhere. And my family were like, nobody travels, you're never going to make any money. This is a dead end job. Just get out and get a job at, like a local place. And I was like, no, like, why would they have that job if nobody travels? Like, and in our world that we lived in, nobody traveled because nobody could afford it. Everyone was, living week to week and nobody really traveled. So then I got my job as a travel agent and I had my first trip overseas, right? And so I'm not sure if anyone else can relate, but when you go overseas, you have these amazing meals and you go to these incredible restaurants, and it's all about just spoiling yourself and how incredible it all is. And I loved that feeling, right? That feeling of just not worrying about money and spending money and enjoying the food. And so when I got home, I was like, oh, I want to feel that here. So then and also because I didn't know how to cook, because I rebelled against being a housewife because it wasn't represented as a good experience for me growing up. So I then would keep that same feeling of spoiling and loving myself through food. So I would organize to go out to dinner every night with a friend, different friend every night. I would go on dates. I would then, go get takeaway. Like, it was a way that I could spoil myself and give myself love. And it made me feel incredible. It made me feel so important and significant, and especially because people around me were saying things like, how can you afford that? I can't afford that. Like, how can you afford to go out every night? It's so expensive. And it wasn't for me. It met my needs that being at home by myself and cooking didn't. And so I also traveled a lot because I wanted to have those feelings and those experiences to meet that need that I was important. Now, my mum actually said this to me a few months ago, and I didn't remember, um, when I was in Mexico, in Guatemala, sorry, my second overseas trip as a travel agent. I extended after the work function, and then I did 2.5 weeks through Mexico, Guatemala, and Belize. And I was in Guatemala and I rang my mom and dad bawling my eyes out because I just felt so unsafe there because the men there were all like, "Hola, chica," and like trying to touch me, and I just felt so uncomfortable. So I didn't leave my room unless I was with someone else that was on the tour group with me because I just felt so unsafe. And, that's an extension of me not learning, knowing, or having my own boundaries. We'll talk about that another episode. Um, but yeah, so this contributed feeling of not feeling safe being skinny because of the amount of attention that I received. And then not knowing how to love myself in a different way. I don't want to say healthy way because, nourishing ourselves with food can be a healthy way of giving ourselves love. However, for me, it wasn't about the nourishment, it was about the taste. And I hated like boring food. I could not like eating at home, there was nothing more boring, and it did not activate those centers of my brain that gave me that feeling of pleasure and love. So I can also see how it was a way of, I mean, it was meeting so many of my needs. So why would I stop it, right? And then on the outside world, there's all of these shame-based coaches and PTs talking about, you got to go to the gym if you're over this amount of weight, if you've got this amount of BMI, you're less than, lose weight, shaming people, calling them fat and all this sort of thing. And so I just kind of like reclused into myself because I don't want to be, you know, I don't want to have people saying things like that to me. So just like I'm just going to stay here and avoid all of that. And I can imagine that there are some people who might relate to that feeling of just turning away from society in order to avoid that judgment. And I just felt so incredibly misunderstood as well because no, well, first of all, nobody knew that I was assaulted. And then nobody could see that there was something deeper. It wasn't just the food in, food out sort of thing and exercise. Like there was more to that. It actually kept me safe being overweight. Being overweight meant that I didn't receive attention. I didn't receive unwanted attention from all the men. There was also this point where I I realized that, like, yeah, well, no, I'll go into that another time because that's more around men and my experience with them and the realizations, well, the feeling that if a man is given an opportunity, he'll take it. So I really didn't feel safe. That's what was going on, right? This feeling of this weight actually keeps me safe. So then it, no matter what I did, like I could do a diet and lose 15 kilos, and I knew I felt great. I felt better. I felt more energetic. But then there's the aspect of I'm not safe, right? So then the weight just comes back on because that's how I keep myself safe. So it was safer for me to do the mindset and the healing and the heart and the processing of my past and past experiences first. A lot of a lot of people, what happens is they'll start out doing the body stuff, but then realize that There's more, there's deeper, there's more to what's going on. It's more about the mindset, and then the mindset stuff leads you into the healing, right? And the past experiences, because there's a reason why we do everything that we do. And when we don't have that integrated understanding that everything is linked, it's not all separate, of course we're all going to feel misunderstood, right? So now I'm kind of at this stage, right? So I have this mad rebellion. So then I'm like, well, you can love me as I am, or you can fuck off, right? Then looking for people that are into curvy women, and it's also kind of unintentionally reinforcing these beliefs that I'm unwanted and I'm not lovable and all these things that are buried deeper under the surface. And this only came to realization when my ex cheated on me 3.5 years ago. 3.5 years ago, yeah. Um, because before that, but when I got with him, I was reasonably okay. Like I wasn't that overweight. And then in our relationship, I put on 25 kilos. So I was quite a lot heavier when we broke up. So then, but what happened is that I have this vision of how I look to other people, which is different to how I actually look. So because I was skinny, I still think that I'm skinny, and I don't understand that I'm not. So it's been this huge um integration, and like it's hard when you think that you're skinny and then you see a photo of yourself, and it brings up a feeling of like disgust. That's really tough. And I see it a lot on social media. I see a lot of people posting pics of them before and after, and it's so funny because I worked with this guy, let's say 2 years ago, and he lost 50 kilos, right? And he did that through shaming himself and the way that he looked. And he lost all of that weight so that he could be good enough, right? And then he got to this stage where he's like super fit, super buff, like really good looking, but he still sees himself as not good enough, and he still sees himself as fat, and he still puts himself down, right? And so I said to him, I said, hey, buddy, like you've used all of this pain to get you to where you are and where you want to be. And now you're probably going to have to shift that energy and heal some of those wounds around not feeling good enough so that you can actually love yourself as you are, and no matter what you are and where you are. And so that was kind of really big for me as well, because that was a reflection of me, right? So I'm trying to change who I am so that I can be loved, so that I can receive love, so that I can receive attention, affection, so that someone will love me. And the flip side of that is to realize that I am lovable and someone will love me the way that I am. They will be able to accept me as I am. And when I can come to a space of understanding why I feel the way that I do around the way that I look, and accept that it's okay. Everyone is worthy of love. They don't need to be skinny. They don't need to be, I mean, even if you are overweight, there is a reason. It doesn't mean that you're less of a person. Coming to this understanding and accepting and loving the parts of me that are wanting me to be skinny so that I can receive love, and actually loving those parts and thanking them for trying to protect me, and then sinking into the space of knowing that this is just a meat suit, right? And this is here to give me experiences so that I can learn and that I can grow and that I can let go of the things that don't serve me anymore. It's a work in progress. I have gone through so many stages of wanting to lose weight so that I can look better, so that I can attract someone, so that I can feel loved. And then being like, oh, actually, I don't like the intention that's behind that because I am lovable and I don't need to lose weight in order to attract someone, and my person will love me as I am. You know, no one ever stays the same. We're all changing. When you get with someone, their body changes, especially having kids, especially as the stresses of life change. So, you know, I totally forgot what train I was on there. All right, train. Where was I going? Oh, yep. So, oh yeah, that's right. So I was on this train of thinking and feeling that I need to lose weight so that I'll be accepted and loved, and then realize and not wanting to actually lose weight that way, like because of the energy that's behind it, right? So I don't want to lose weight so that I can be better. That's my inner rebellion coming out. And so this year I've actually lost 10 kilos since the start of the year. And it's not because I want to lose weight, because I want to look better, because I want to attract someone so that I can be good enough, so that I can be loved. It's because I have an understanding of, in order to be the person who I want to be, my body needs to be able to process and transform, transmute, alchemize energy in a more efficient way. So the foods that you eat and that you consume have a vibration. And if I'm consuming foods, right, so yeah, I'll finish that train of thought. If I'm consuming foods in order to meet a need, then they're potentially not going to be having a good impact on my body. So, in order to create that shift, I am continually holding space for and intentionally loving myself on the daily in ways that are good for me through self compassion, through self validation, through going for a walk because it makes me feel good, not because I need to get my steps in or I need to lose weight or whatever else of those shitty beliefs that are keeping me in this space of I'm not good enough, right? So that shift into the mindset of doing things for myself because I want to, not because I feel like I have to or I need to in order to be something that someone else wants me to be. Does that make sense? And so learning, it's been a huge shift, right? Coming from this space of I want to have an apple instead of chips because an apple actually makes me feel good, and it's going to mean that the energy in my body will be able to process a lot better. It's been it's been incredibly nourishing. And it's really hard because there's so much shame around food. Like I used to not tell. So my iced coffee that I've been drinking for 15 years, it took me like I want to say 10, 11 years before I actually allowed anyone to know that I drank it. So, for example, I would leave my boyfriend's house, go to the servo, pick up a coffee, and drink it before I got to work because I felt so ashamed that I was drinking something with so much sugar that was unhealthy for me. I also would go to get takeaway and eat in my car because I didn't want people to judge me. I felt so ashamed. And that comes from having a society and a mother who's so critical around the things that I eat. That's not good for you. Don't do that. You know, you're going to put on weight, and then what do no one's going to want to be with you. And so all these things are things that were said to me. They're not things that I just picked up. They were things that were outly said to me, and have created so much shame around food and consuming. Yeah, so it took like I think I was with my partner a year, maybe two, before I let him know that that's something that I did, that I drank iced coffee on the way to work because, I just didn't want someone to tell me not to do something that gave so much to me. It gave me so much love and acceptance, and it made me feel special. It was a way of meeting my needs, and of course I'm not going to take that away. So I went on this detox for 30 days at the start of this year, and that was incredible. And I really noticed, like, I've done them heaps of times. I did one last year and the year before. But this year I have a different awareness, right? I have a different awareness of what's going on for me. And I also have a different awareness of my body because I've finally been able to heal from a lot of that trauma that left me feeling unsafe. So I found this sense of safety in my body. And so I did this detox, and what I noticed was the amount of energy that I had in consuming this food. And they all say it, the nutritionists and the PTs, and they're all like, you'll have more energy and all this sort of stuff. But it was different. I felt it in a different way. And then what happened was I crashed my car. The situationship I was seeing said he couldn't see me. And then my mum said something that really upset me. And so that happened in the space of 3 days. And so I was like processing my emotions, processing my emotions. And then the thing with mum happened, and I was like, fuck it, I can't do this anymore. And so I just like went back to eating food because I couldn't handle what was going on. Like, it was all too much. And so that was a couple of weeks ago now. And because I'm so experienced at self-validation and self-compassion, I'm like, it's okay. It's okay that you're doing that and that you've gone back to eating the way that you did before. Of course you would, especially when it all feels too overwhelming for you. It's okay. Like, you're enough as you are, and I accept you, and like, we're gonna be okay. Let's just meet our needs right here, right now. And then when we're feeling resourced enough, let's give it another go. Like, we have an infinite amount of tries, right? And so that is my new internal dialogue that I've created for myself. And you can hear the difference of what it used to be, in that I needed to be someone who someone other than who I was in order to be accepted and loved and whatever. And now I'm like, it's okay. Like, we've got this. Anyway, so the difference that I feel in my body, like the last couple of days, I've just been waking up with this incredible fog over my head, which I can feel is from drinking the coffee. So now that I've shifted and had that energetic shift in my body, I can really feel it, and I know exactly what it's from. And at the same time, there's a part of me that is not ready to give that up because I don't feel resourced enough. I don't feel like I have the capacity. Oh, excuse me. I don't feel like I have the capacity to give myself what I need without that. if that makes sense. And that's okay for me right now because this is a journey and we're always growing and learning and expanding as long as we take the time required to self-reflect. So, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'd love to know what you've taken away from this episode. So if you're watching on YouTube, just drop a comment below, or if you're listening to on Spotify, you can message me on Instagram, Inspiring Growth with Lauren. Please let me know what you've taken away. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye.